Hello, I am Jackie Choice, B2B Marketing Manager for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution and your host for this 2022 Spring Virtual Event for Aging in Atlanta. Today, our panelists will speak on a host of topics, including estate planning, health and wellness, and things to do in the spring and summer here in Atlanta. Each of our panelists will introduce themselves, and then I will ask them questions. We'll go ahead and get started with our first panelist, Shannon Pauley.
Good day and welcome. My name is Shannon Pauley. It is my pleasure to be here today, especially as one of the returning panelists, because I find a lot of focus, need, and enjoyment in educating fellow Atlanteans concerning different topics. I myself am an estate planning attorney. I do own the estate and asset protection law firm, and it's my honor to be able to assist my clients in being able to age with dignity, grace, and independence.
Thank you, Shannon. Next, we'll hear from Dee Dee McEwen.
Hi, I'm Dee Dee McEwen, and I'm a Kroger pharmacist in the Atlanta division. The Atlanta division has approximately 180 pharmacies across Georgia, Alabama, and South Carolina. I graduated from the University of Georgia College of Pharmacy in 1999, and it is my passion to help our patients live healthier lives.
Thank you, Dee Dee. Next, we'll hear from Bo Emerson.
Hey, I'm Bo Emerson. I'm a reporter for the Journal-Constitution, and I've been writing for the paper since 1983. So as you can tell, I have in fact been aging in Atlanta, but I still like to get out and about, and I'm going to give you some ideas of things that you can get out and about and do.
And now let's hear from Dr. Sharon Henderson.
Yes, hi. Yes, I am Dr. Sharon Henderson. I am a nurse practitioner. My specialty is adult gerontological nursing, and I work at Kaiser. I manage patients in the geriatrics clinic who are having changes or problems related to aging. Also at Kaiser, I am a member of the skilled nursing facility rounding team. We see our Kaiser members who have been admitted to rehab facilities around the city to help manage their medical care while they are admitted there, and also to help maintain continuity of care between the hospital, the facility, and the outpatient center. And I've been with Kaiser now for about 14 years, and working with the older adult population is a real passion of mine. So I'm very privileged. I feel very privileged to be here today.
Thanks for that. We'll go ahead and get started with our first panelist, Shannon, who, as she mentioned, is returning to us today. There are a ton of questions from our audience, and we'll go ahead and get started with the first one. Question: what are the basic estate planning documents everyone over 18 should have, and why?
This is a very good question, because this is one that I try to educate persons on quite often. Because so often when people think estate planning, they're thinking more of an age of retirement, for example. However, anyone over the age of 18 should have some basic estate planning documents. The three basic documents include a healthcare power of attorney. This is where you're going to be able to declare out who you wish to be your agent if you become incapacitated, and they're going to be able to handle your healthcare affairs, such things as access to your medical records, discussing medical treatment plans with your doctors, and making healthcare decisions on your behalf if you're unable to. And realize within this document is also should be a medical declaration where you're actually stating how you want your end-of-life treatment plan being. And if there's anything that we've learned through COVID and just other news stories of unfortunate disasters, you never know what tomorrow's going to bring, whether you're an 18-year-old or you're an 88-year-old. The second document is what's called a financial power of attorney. This is a document where you're naming an agent to handle your financial affairs. This is highly, highly important because if you become incapacitated, you want to make sure that somebody can handle paying of your bills, handle the investments that you have in case they start to plummet, for example, and further on your behalf to be able to enter into and cancel contracts. The last document, this is the one that most people just naturally assume when they hear estate planning attorney, and it is a very important document. That's the last will and testament. A lot of times people will tell me, but an 18-year-old doesn't have any assets. Well, my comment to you is this. That doesn't mean that at the time of their death, they may not, for example, have a legal claim, that they should have an entitlement and an involvement as to where any type of recovery or asset that they own at time of death goes.
Thank you for that. So this next question was pretty popular. My family knows what I want to happen when I pass. Why do I need a will?
This is one that we do hear quite often. And unfortunately, I hear it on both ends of the spectrum. I hear it from the parent, for example, who comes in and goes, oh, I've talked to my kids. They know how I want stuff divided. They know how I want to be buried, and they know the life celebrations. So really, I just think that this is an unwise use of my money. My response back is be prepared for family disharmony upon your passing. Because just because they know, and even if you stated in true intent what you wanted to happen to your estate after your passing, you may have said one thing to one family member 20 years ago and said something to someone different last week. If you don't memorialize this down, you are creating the perfect recipe for a tragic storm with your family after your passing. So you want to detail, because otherwise you are just going to create unfortunate situations with your loved ones after your passing, as each one believes in their heart of hearts that they're doing your wishes. But unfortunately, they're all coming from different perspectives, different times in your life where you may have shared that information. Further, if you have assets and you don't have a will, things are going to go under the laws of intestacy, where the courts, under a basic and recognized family relationship, determines where your assets go. And you may want assets to go to a specific person or persons, charity, etc. That unfortunately, if you die without a will, you have no say-so at that point because you never insured your voice during life through a will.
Thank you for that. Next question. What is probate and why should someone want to avoid it?
So probate is a legal process where assets that you own in your individual name at time of death, they have to go to your stated beneficiary or who's recognized as being your legal heir. The probate process is controlled completely by the courts. My comment that I have is twofold. Number one, there's additional expenses that you're going to have to pay for court fees and publication fees, probably looking at somewhere between $500 to $700 there. You're probably going to have to retain an attorney a lot of times because this is a domain that people aren't familiar with. So you've got that additional expense. But to me, the two biggest expenses in probate are, one, everything's public record. Everybody knows your business. That's why, for example, when a famous person passes and their will is going to probate, copies of their will are all over TMZ, Entertainment Tonight, morning talk shows after they pass, because that's a public record everybody has an entitlement to. So that's one big expense, is the lack of privacy. But the second big expense is time, because you're going to be placing upon your stated executor or administrator what, due to COVID delays, could take up to 3 years for a basic probate administration in some Metro Atlanta probate courts. So that's what probate is. And hopefully I've emphasized why you actually want to avoid it if you're able to.
Shannon, and I think we're all going to want to avoid probate. This next question is from an AJC subscriber, and it is, what if I am a solo senior, meaning never married or widowed with no children or surviving family, and have no one to name as my agent, trustee, or executor? How can I assure that my wishes are followed in my estate plan?
So this is one that I hear quite often, especially as we have aging generations, because we're living much longer than when I remember being a child of the 70s and early 80s. And I remember Willard Scott on the Today Show, and he would announce the centenarians. It was such a big deal because they hit 100. But actually, lifespans are going much longer than they were in the 60s, 70s, and et cetera. And because of that, with people living longer, Unfortunately, a lot of their key family members may predecease them, or we have situations to where they may not be married or have children, surviving siblings, or etc. When this happens, as was stated by our hostess, that is where we have what we call solo seniors. When this happens, there are resources. There are professional fiduciaries that can assist you. There's professional healthcare advocates that can assist you in handling your healthcare concerns during life if you become incapacitated. There are professional financial powers of attorney to handle your financial and contractual affairs during life. And further, there are professional trust companies, for example, who handle your trust, or professional executors handling your probate estate. The big thing here is to realize that you're never alone. There's always professionals to be able to assist you. Yes, that will be at an additional cost, but what I will emphasize is sometimes for your own sanity and protection, there's no money or price point you can put on it. And that's where these professional fiduciaries come in.
Thank you for that. Our last question for you, Shannon. Through estate planning, what are some long-term care strategies to help limit financial expenses for increasing levels of care as we age?
So this is where we start bringing in, very often, trust strategy. Now, a lot of people have this connotation when they hear trust, they're thinking of the Rockefellers, the Carnegies, these people that are creating these trusts as vehicles for multi-generational wealth transfer. That's true. That's one type of trust we have out there, but trusts serve a multitude of other goals. For example, very often we have clients that are coming to us that are to the point of needing 24/7 long-term care in a skilled nursing facility. Skilled nursing facilities in Metro Atlanta, they range between $5,000 to $12,000, $16,000 a month. That's going to put a serious dent in anybody's nest egg they spend a lifetime accumulating, if not fully depleted. That's where we have to start having these long-term care strategies. And for example, if we have time that we can do a proactive 5-year strategy, wonderful. We can put your highly appreciated property into an irrevocable government asset protection trust. And after the conclusion of the 5 years, ideally with limited planning, you're going to be able to apply for Medicaid. Or we could have a crisis situation. I always use the example, are you the ant or the grasshopper in Aesop's fable? If you're the ant, you did that 5-year strategy. Maybe we even ensured that you have a long-term care policy to allow that bridge during that 5-year strategy session of asset preservation. But you might have it to where you need the care now. Realize, very often people believe they have to do what's called a full spin down to apply for and qualify for governmental assets or governmental programs, And what I emphasize to you is there is long-term strategy there, even in a crisis scenario, that a properly educated and focused attorney that specializes in Medicaid planning should be able to save a portion, and in some cases, your entire estate from the grasp of Medicaid while ensuring that you are able to qualify for that program. So when you ask the question, what type of estate planning strategies are there available for long-term care, there is a spectrum of strategies, and they're all individualized based upon your needs, your assets, and what level of care you're at that time. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Shannon, for this wealth of information you've shared with us today. Now, let's take a break and hear a message from our presenting sponsor, Kroger.
What's so great about being a Kroger Boost member? Free delivery on the Kroger products you love, and more rewards too, like double fuel points on everything you buy. Experience a new level of membership, starting as low as $59 a year with Boost by Kroger Plus. Learn more at Kroger.com today.
Next up, welcome Dee Dee McEwen to the panel. Dee Dee, welcome. Our first question for you is, what are the changes to the pneumococcal vaccine recommendation?
It's a great question and a very timely question. Pneumococcal vaccination recommendations were simplified across all age groups and risk categories. In the past, for anyone greater than 65 years old, we recommended 1 dose of Prevnar followed with 1 dose of Pneumovax 1 year later. So a total of 2 doses of pneumococcal vaccine. Now the recommendations are, because of 2 new agents to the market, 1 dose of Prevnar 20, which is the only dose that you would need if you are pneumococcal naive. However, if you have already had the Pneumovax 23, you would want to wait 1 year and then also receive either a Prevnar 15 or a PCV 20 vaccine.
Thank you. Now, can you walk us through the current Coven vaccine recommendations?
Of course, and these seem to be changing too, but currently everyone greater than 5 years old is eligible for their COVID vaccine. If you are greater than 12 years old, then you are eligible for the primary series, which is a 1 or 2 dose series plus a booster. And anyone greater than the age of 50 is eligible for 2 boosters. So you would get your first dose, say, of Moderna or Pfizer, followed by your second full dose of Moderna or Pfizer. And then 5 months later, you would receive your first booster vaccine. And then 4 months from that date, you are eligible for a 4th booster now.
Thank you for that. I know we all probably had a couple questions, so that was very helpful to see. Next, do you have some tips you could share for seniors who will be traveling this summer?
Of course, we always want to think about our medication needs with a lot of time involved. So the first tip is to go ahead and plot out how long you're going to be gone and take a survey of what medications you might need. Start with your pharmacist early because they may have to get a prior authorization, a vacation override, or even contact your doctor for additional refills. While traveling, especially if it's going to be for an extended period of time, I would recommend leaving the tablets or capsules in the airtight containers that the pharmacist dispensed them to you versus using a pill box. You would hate for something to fall out in baggage, etc. If you are going overseas, just to make sure you're okay in customs, I would leave the medication in the prescription bottle with the actual label that shows that the prescription is for you and that you do have authorization from a physician to have those substances.
Thank you. In packing a first aid kit, what are some of the essentials to be sure are included?
Great question. Always have Band-Aids and butterfly closures for any sort of wound. I would also recommend an antiseptic spray and a wound cleaning spray. You can never be too careful when it comes to your eyes. So obviously including an eye wash would be helpful as well, especially if you're not around a sink. I also like to pack in my current first aid kit an antihistamine for any sort of insect bite that might cause swelling, some antibiotic ointment for any sort of type of infection. Butterfly closures will always help with gashes, and ice packs always come in handy, along with, if you still have room in your first aid bag, to include a ACE bandage.
Thank you. And here are a couple questions that, seem to be pretty popular amongst our audience. If you could share, how do GoodRx and similar discount programs and cards work?
So for the uninsured patient, these type of discount cards do lower the price of your medications at the register. So you would present the card, or you can go online to see which card would be best for the medication that you're purchasing. Also, that includes different prices for different companies too, so you can get the better choice for you there. In addition to that, if you are an insured patient, sometimes it is still economical to use your insurance. However, you do have the option, if it is not economical for you to use your pharmacy insurance, to put your medication on a discount card. You would just need to discuss those options with your Kroger pharmacist. But just a reminder, you cannot bill 2 different cards at once. So you would either need to choose, do you want to use your primary insurance plan, or would you want to use a coupon card or a discount card?
Thank you. Next question. What is the purpose of a comprehensive medication review, and how would someone go about getting one?
So a comprehensive medication review ideally is done once a year for all of our seniors. Medicare Part D does allow for this. And it is a way for a pharmacist and you to sit down and reconcile your medications, because using, different pharmacies sometimes, or if you were in a hospital setting and discharged with a different dose. Currently, we have many medications that are on auto refill plans or MedSync plans, and it's just a way to reconcile those differences. In addition, sometimes you might have a prescription for a dose, and verbally the doctor might tell you to decrease the dose or increase the dose, which then would show a different usage in the pharmacy. So it's ways to decrease medication errors. We also look at efficacy of each medication, drug interactions. If you are currently having any unmet needs that we think a therapy or a medication might help. We also look at clinical-based guidelines when we do these comprehensive medication reviews. And so it's just an approach to further conversations between you, your pharmacist, and your physician as your healthcare team, and identify any safety issues and resolve them. Also, once a year, we annually look at your immunization status and make sure you're up to date on all your current immunizations. If you are interested in doing one of these medication reviews, all you need to do is contact your pharmacist and they can set up an appointment. You can either come in or they can be done on the phone. The most important piece to be prepared for a comprehensive medication review is to have a list of all your medications, the strengths, the directions, how many refills are remaining, and the medication bottles that you have. Don't forget the over-the-counter medications that you're taking or vitamins. Those are important too for us to run drug interaction surveys against.
Thank you. So that will lead us actually right into our final question for you, Dee Dee. What kind of information should we provide to our pharmacy to ensure that we are getting the best possible care?
So a current list of medications with names, strengths, directions, and the doctor, any sort of health conditions that you may have. So keeping an up-to-date list of those. We would like to know your current address, your telephone number, if you've developed any new allergies since you originally filled out a patient profile. And also, as your insurance changes, keeping us aware of the insurance change will help too.
Thank you so much, Dee Dee, for that valuable information. I know a lot of us will definitely be using what tips you shared the next time that we reach out to our pharmacists. Moving on, I would like to welcome Bo Emerson to the panel, who will be sharing with us things to do this spring and summer. Bo, our first question for you is, where can we hear some music outdoors this month?
Well, this month will bring us the Atlanta Jazz Festival, and this particular version of it has looks like it's going to be really great. It has Herbie Hancock on one of the days, and by the way, it's Memorial Day weekend, so May 28th, May 29th, and May 30th. Herbie's going to play on that Saturday. Eddie Palmieri, the great Latin big band director and pianist, is going to play on that Sunday, and Kenny Barron is going to be playing on Monday. That's at Piedmont Park. It's free. It's a great atmosphere. And speaking of aging in Atlanta, these guys demonstrate that you can keep on making great music into your octogenarian years. Herbie is 82. Eddie is 85. Kenny Barron's the youngster in the group. He's only 78. But they are still creating great swinging music. And it's free.
I think we all can appreciate good music, especially when it is free. Our next question for you, Bo, is what about entertainment in offbeat locations around Atlanta?
All right. Well, the Atlanta Opera has been doing a great job at bringing opera to some unusual spots. They've during COVID, they were performing in a tent out on the football field at Oglethorpe, and even in the parking lot at the Cobb Energy Center. And before that, they were also putting on opera outdoors in parks and in Paris on Ponce, which unfortunately has gone up in flames. But this summer, I think it is June 2nd to the 19th, they've got a series called Come As You Are, which I think implies you don't have to put on a tux or a gown to go to this thing. And it's at the Pullman Yard, which is a very funky facility, sort of at the edge of Kirkwood. It used to be a manufacturing compound where they built Pullman cars. They also made made other products there. It's got these great towering structures. Currently, they've been putting on immersive experiences there with Van Gogh and such. This June, you'll be able to see a new production of Cabaret and also a very intimate little, they call it a chamber opera called As One, which is two voices and a string quartet. All of those have turned out to be great shows. So that's one place I would like to go.
Thank you so much for that, Bo. So we know that our audience has a few green thumbs out there. Any activities you would recommend for those who are into gardening?
Yeah, there's a lot of places where you can get advice about plants and such. I thought about one particular kind of lesson that's going to be provided at the Atlanta Botanical Garden. It's beginning beekeeping. If you are serious about plants, in particular, like vegetables and other things, and creating a good environment for pollinators, this would be a great thing to learn. They have courses on May 21st and August 27th. And in fact, they even have later on June 11th, they have a course on honeybee biology, which ought to be interesting. There's plenty of other things going on at the Botanical Garden that can teach you about plants, but I like that idea in particular.
That is a very unique suggestion. I love that. So a lot of our senior audience members here in Atlanta really want to exercise this summer, but you and I both know that it's getting kind of hot. Any suggestions?
All right. If you haven't played pickleball yet, you probably will. It is a version of tennis. It's played with a different kind of racket, a bigger, softer ball, a smaller court. And for people whose knees might not be what they used to be, it's fantastic. It also is all over Atlanta. And I'll tell you, two places that have indoor pickleball courts, which are easier to host because they're smaller than tennis courts. One is up in Alpharetta at the Alpharetta Community Center. It's 175 Roswell Street. It's $3 for people who are from elsewhere, free for people from Alpharetta. Another place, the Willis Park Recreation Center in Roswell, at the Bill Johnson Community Center. There's 6 courts, and that's $3 for residents, $5 for everybody else. But all of those are indoors, and a great place to get a workout without getting burned up.
Thanks for that. So now we'll share a little bit of attention to a particular side of town. Bo, can you tell us about entertainment on the South Side?
I'll tell you what, the Fred, which is actually the Frederick Brown Amphitheater in Peachtree City, is a good place for shows. I'll tell you, the Little River Band is going to be playing there June 4th. You might remember their tune Reminiscing. I think all of the original members are gone, not dead, but in any case, not in the band. On the other hand, some of the folks who are part of the band now have been there for decades. And it's a great facility and very handy for folks who live on the other side of I-20.
Awesome. Thank you. Finally, where can we find some low cost or maybe even free fun this spring and summer?
One of the great things for people my age is the second Sunday at the High Museum. You not only can go noon to 5 for free, and this happens every month, but there are also lots of activities for little kids. So if you happen to have grandchildren, I got two, then you could take them with you. They will be making art projects and doing other things. There are also performances on those days. And I have a friend who makes a point of being a docent at all kinds of places in Atlanta, like at the Fox. If you decide to usher there, or if you decide to be a docent at other locales, you can see a lot of entertainment, a lot of performances for free if you're willing to put in a little work for that. And by the way, going back to the Jazz Fest, that's free also.
Thank you so much for that information, Bo. There's definitely a lot that we'll be able to do this spring and summer here in the city of Atlanta. Now, let's take a break and hear a message from our sponsor, Kaiser Permanente.
Little did I know when I joined Kaiser Permanente that it would be on my top 10 list for what has made this year great. I can see my physician, I can be referred to the lab, I can then be referred to the pharmacy, all in the same building. You've got it all. I mean, it's quality of care, it's compassion of care, it's convenience of care. It's terrific.
Next up, welcome Dr. Sharon Henderson to the panel for the first time to discuss preventative care and aging well. Our first question is from a reader. If I'm a physically active senior and I eat well and feel good, do I really need to see a doctor every year?
That is a great question, Jackie. Thank you for asking. I have actually heard that many times throughout my career. And the truth is, yes, you should see your doctor or healthcare provider at least annually for preventative care. We do know that there are several health conditions that can be treated or even have a good cure rate if they are caught early. So, for example, breast cancer, colorectal cancer, those particular diseases have a high curability rate if they are caught in their early stages. And if you don't get checked for them annually, then no, you cannot cure them early. Additionally, there are several chronic conditions that may not have symptoms in their early stages. So, for example, high blood pressure, diabetes. You may feel perfectly fine, but your blood pressure is at a very high level, or your blood sugars are out of control. And even though you feel well, they are still doing damage to your internal organs. So it's important that you get treatment, that you identify those conditions and get treatment as soon as possible to minimize the damage. So that is why it's important that you see your doctor or healthcare provider at least annually, even if you feel well.
Our next question. Can you explain the concept of aging in place and give our audience some thoughts on how to work towards achieving that goal as they grow older?
Yes, aging in place is a very popular concept that is near and dear to my heart. And it is exactly what it sounds like. Making sure that you are able to grow older in your own home or the setting of your choice in a way that is maintains your independence and your safety. So, unfortunately, just wanting to have that or thinking that that's what you should do is not enough. You have to plan ahead to make sure that you are able to age in place. So, what I tell people, the first thing they need to do is they need to take a sort of an objective, critical look around their home and ask themselves, if I were older, if I were not in good condition as I am today, would I still be able to live here safely? Are there stairs to get into the home? Are your bedroom and the bathrooms on a different floor? If not, if they are, then you may want to think about how can I remodel or modify my home so that if I was to have difficulty getting up the stairs or getting into my own home, you want to make those changes now while you still can so that that won't be a problem for you and you can stay in your home. Look at your bathrooms. Are they large enough? Are the doorways wide enough to accommodate a walker or a wheelchair? Look at your bathtub. Do you have the type that you can walk in or do you have to step in? Those things may seem minor while you're in good health, but when you are not in good health, it's a big deal. And those are the types of things that affect whether or not someone can stay in their home. And additionally, outside your home, do you have a large yard that's difficult to upkeep? Ask yourself 10, 15, 20 years from now, are you going to want to do that or are you going to be able to do that? So think about those things now. Look at your neighborhood. Is it changing? Have your favorite grocery stores, restaurants, banks, has your doctor moved? Do you have to drive further now? If that's the case, it may not be a big deal now, but when you're older, it may be a very big deal. So you may want to think, do I really want to stay in this neighborhood? And finally, I want you to think about your support system. First of all, do you have one? If you don't, you might want to start to develop that. You want to look at who you can trust to speak for you if you can't speak for yourself, who you can trust to help you if you need help. Are you near your support system? Maybe you want to try to move nearer. Those are the types of things that will affect whether or not you can age in place. But the main thing is you want to make those decisions for yourself while you still can. You don't want someone else to do it for you.
Some of our readers feel as they are on too many medications. How should they approach their doctor about reducing them?
Yeah, so the first thing you need to do when you approach your doctor is make sure that they know exactly what you're taking. And that includes over-the-counter medicines, herbals, supplements, vitamins, medicines that may have been prescribed by a different doctor or specialist or consultant. And then just ask them, where are the opportunities to reduce these medicines? For example, some medicines can be combined. Maybe instead of taking 2 pills, you can take 1. Maybe instead of taking 1 pill twice a day, there's an opportunity to reduce it to 1 once a day. And the next thing you want to ask about are, certain medicines that you may be taking for conditions that you no longer have symptoms for. So, for example, acid reflux. Maybe you're taking medicine to treat that, but you no longer have those symptoms. Ask your doctor or your healthcare provider if you can have a trial off of those medicines. And maybe if the symptoms don't come back, you can stay off of them. So that's how you want to approach that conversation with your doctor. Please don't stop taking them without having that conversation first, because that can upend your whole treatment plan. You want to do it in a way that's orderly and safe.
Now, here was a very popular question. Is there anything we can do to improve memory function?
That is a very popular question, and I appreciate you asking that. So what I want people to understand is that as we grow older, there are changes in your brain that do lead to increased forgetfulness, and this happens to almost all of us. So you shouldn't be alarmed if you find yourself walking into rooms and you forgot why you went in there. That happens to people of any age. But if you are worried that you're becoming more forgetful in a way that's problematic, your first stop should be with your doctor or your healthcare provider. There may be some reversible causes that they can address. Just by way of example, there are some vitamin deficiencies that can cause increased forgetfulness, thyroid dysfunction. Those are just a couple of examples. Some medicines can cause problems with your memory. So the first thing you want to do is stop and talk with your doctor or healthcare provider. Now, on an individual basis, some of the things that you can do to help improve or maintain your memory, really the goal is to maintain. Make sure you're getting regular physical exercise. That is probably one of the best things that you can do to help your memory. staying active, staying physically active is very critical for brain health. And then I want you to ask yourself if you're getting a good night's sleep. Are you leaving the TV on? Are you getting up a lot at night for various reasons? Do you have sleep apnea and you're not using your CPAP? That's a mistake, because if you're not sleeping through the night, that is going to have a negative impact on your memory. And one more addition to that, if you're taking some over-the-counter sleep medicines, that can ironically also cause problems with your memory. Another thing you can do to help improve your memory, if you have a chronic condition, such as diabetes or high blood pressure, it is really, really critical that you keep those conditions under control, because they can affect your brain health. So those are the top things that I tell people who are concerned about their memory. If you want to maintain it or improve it, do all of those things. Keep chronic conditions well controlled, get a good night's sleep, stay physically active, and finally, be careful of your alcohol intake. If you are female, you really should not have more than 1 drink a day. If you're a male, not more than 2 drinks a day. And if you smoke, stop smoking. Those are all very important for brain health and improving your memory.
Our next question for you is, one reader asks, my parents have Alzheimer's disease. How concerned should I be about my memory, and what types of things should I be mindful of?
We do know that if you have a parent or a sibling who has Alzheimer's disease, you do have an increased risk of developing it yourself. However, you should not be so worried that this becomes, your primary concern in life, because it is not inevitable that you will develop Alzheimer's if your parents or siblings had it. It is not your fate necessarily. Again, there's an increased risk that you can't do anything about, but it does not mean that you are destined to have it yourself. Again, however, if you notice that your memory is becoming a problem in that you are having difficulty managing your life. So, for example, if you're having trouble paying your bills, if you're forgetting to take your medicine, if you're having trouble preparing meals for yourself, if you're having difficulty driving, getting lost, if other people are noticing you can't follow the conversation, or you're having difficulty reading a book, those are all very concerning things that you need to see your doctor about. And again, you can be evaluated for what may be causing those issues.
And finally, talk to us a little bit about seniors adding vitamins and herbals to their daily regimens.
Yeah, so thank you for asking that. That's a really important question. The first thing I would say to seniors about adding vitamins and herbals is do not do it until you talk to your doctor or healthcare provider. And the reason why is because although we tend to think that all things natural are good, that does not mean they are benign. And it is possible that many vitamins and herbs could interact with your prescription medicines. So, for example, vitamin E, under certain circumstances, can cause an increased risk of bleeding. So that's something that's very important. And you don't want to start taking vitamins and herbs without talking it over with your doctor or healthcare provider. Additionally, many of them just don't have the benefit that we hope for. They haven't all been as researched as well as we would like. And if you're eating a well-balanced diet and you're getting regular exercise, quite often they just don't add anything to your overall health profile. So that doesn't mean that there's never a benefit. Honestly, I prescribe vitamins and supplements all the time for certain conditions. I just don't recommend that you do it without discussing it with your doctor or healthcare provider first.
Thank you so much for sharing that wealth of information, Sharon. We'd also like to say thanks to Kroger. We'll be drawing 2 random winners of a $50 Kroger gift card from those who registered for the event today. They'll be notified after the program. In closing, we'd like to get a few final thoughts from our panelists, and we will start with Shannon Pauley.
Takeaway I hope that the audience has received today, not only from myself, but also from the other speakers, is that when you are aging in Atlanta, you're not doing it alone. We've got a lot of resources for you, both from the social aspect, as Bo was talking about, from the medical aspect, and also from the legal aspect. And all that I can emphasize is know that we're here to support you in any way that we can. And speaking of that, don't hesitate to reach out to any member of my firm. We're here to ensure that you are able to age, once more, dignity, grace, and independence.
Thank you so much, Shannon. And next, I'll pass it over to Dee Dee McEwen.
Thank you for letting me be part of the panel today. Being a pharmacist, we are always accessible to patients any day of the week. We are open 7 days a week. So please let us help simplify your healthcare needs by combining health, wellness, and nutrition all in one place. We'd love to be part of your medication experience any day.
Thank you, Dee Dee. Next, we will go ahead and pass it over to Bo Emerson for final thoughts.
Thank you, Jackie. I'm just going to provide a little pitch for my buddy here, Herbie Hancock, at the Piedmont Park as part of the Atlanta Jazz Festival. It's going to be a great festival this year, and your city pays for it, but it's just one of many cool things you can do this summer in Atlanta.
Thank you so much for that, Bo. I know we'll probably be seeing you out at the Jazz Festival. Lastly, we'll get final thoughts from Sharon Henderson.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, first of all, again, I feel privileged to discuss aging. It is a subject that is near and dear to my heart. We are not all so lucky to reach an older age. So it's important that we protect ourselves physically, emotionally, and financially so that our older years are our best years. And they absolutely can be the best years of our life, but it takes planning and it takes work. And I am glad to be able to do whatever it takes to make these years the best for anyone that I can help.
In closing, we thank our presenting sponsor, Kroger, for making this program possible. We'd also like to recognize our other Aging in Atlanta sponsors. Thanks for joining us today. Be sure to visit ajc.com/aging for updates on senior living topics and a recorded broadcast of this event. You'll also be able to download a copy of our program guide from today's event with a wealth of information. You can sign up for our monthly Aging in Atlanta newsletter there too. Thank you to our subscribers. Your subscription supports our journalists. If you're not yet a subscriber of the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, we invite you to join us. That way you can continue to follow our reporting in the Atlanta Journal-Constitution and online at ajc.com.